You're listening to Clock Radio Speakers with Armond and Doc. This week's episode is split into two sides. This is Side A.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Clock Radio Speakers. I'm your co-host, Armond Wake Up. You can follow me don't follow me on social media. I hate social media.
Follow him. Go ahead.
Just join my Patreon, sign up for my newsletter. Like, I'm really close. I keep saying this, but I'm just inching closer and closer to no. More important than that, follow Clock Radio Speakers, join our Patreon. I'm really bad. We haven't recorded in a long time, so my intro is trash. We'll be all right. Follow us on Twitter, I guess, YouTube, Clock Radio Speakers, CRS Podcast, whatever.
All the
more
places.
important than that, all the places, wherever we are. More important than that, just follow the join the Patreon. And Doc is here. If you're on the $10 tier, you see the video. Doc is here. What's up, man?
I'm here. You could tell by Armand's intro that unlike some people we're going to talk about today, there's no AI involved here, right? This is all authentic. Armand's eyes go wide. Nothing is, there's no ghostwriters, no references being, with voices applied to it or anything like that here.
I got a hot take about AI. Remind me that the instance that you're referencing made me say, oh, that's why. It made me connect some dots, but we'll get there.
Okay. Oh man. It's weird, right? So at the end of the pre-show, and if you're not a Patreon subscriber, you should, because you get full versions of every episode. Plus, you get our pre-show. At the end of the pre-show, we were talking about how there's not a lot of hip hop on the pop charts right now, right? Not a lot of people are crossing over. I mean, basically, aside from the occasional big first week from somebody on the album charts, or aside from Not Like Us on the single side, nothing really has sort of permeated into the mainstream this summer.
Right.
So there's not a lot going on that level, but there's also a lot going on at the same time. Mm-hmm. So where do you want to start, man? We got a lot of things we can talk about.
Ooh, boy. Yeah, we've got, your man Kanye just dropped some new music. Yep. We've got, a lot of women moving and shaking. We got new albums from Lotto, Ice Spice. We've got
the Drake leak / release.
Drake put out 100 gigs of music and just randomness that I just let the stands go through. Yeah. You can kind of connect Drake and Kanye to that. I think that's a conversation we could have together.
Sure.
Because they kind of
it's hard not to link them. Yeah.
Right. They kind of did the same thing in different ways, just like you can connect Ice Spice, and it's the same thing.
All right, we'll talk about
I got math for that. I got math for that.
Okay.
We can just be funny and start with the Olympics.
Let's start with the Olympics. Okay. So your girl, Ray Gun.
My girl.
So here's what's going on. So breaking was in the Olympics for the first time, maybe the only time.
There's already rumors and people saying that it's not going to be in 2028. But
we already know that, right? They've already chosen, because it's not because of what happened. We knew that going into this Olympics. Like, they just choose which sports that they want. So sometimes baseball is at the Olympics, sometimes it's not.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it really depends. And so long story short, and there's a ton of articles, I'm sure people know all about this, but there is a sort of we'll call it sport dancing, for lack of a better term. There's a sport dancing federation that has been trying to get competitive dancing of some kind in the Olympics for a while.
Okay.
Haven't really had a lot of luck. They pivoted. They started pushing breaking, got Paris to bite on breaking. Okay. So there was, within the breaking community, we'll say mixed opinions, and I'm being generous, about how this all happened and ended up, right? This didn't come organically from some breaking culture or anything like that. But on the other hand, it's also not like they just cherry picked people. There was real trials and real things that happened, but it was a mixed bag. Some people didn't want to play a part in it because they saw it as not a part of their culture. They just saw it as people swooping in. For some people, it was, especially in some of these countries where there's not as big of a breaking scene, it was more like, well, you're holding the finals over here, but the breaking culture is really here. And it's honestly just a logistical and financial problem to get there. So this was not a perfect by any means process to get breaking in the Olympics, but there were lots of legit competitive breakers in the Olympics. There was some, and what's interesting is, aside from this ray gun controversy, which we'll talk about, the feedback that I have gotten from people who know nothing about breaking is that they were fascinated by it. They loved it. They had no idea. Because I think honestly, if you're between the ages of, I don't know, 80 and 40 and 80, and if you're out of the hip hop culture, when people say breakdancing, you think some 1980s grainy video of b-boys on cardboard in New York City, right? And people just have not been tapped in. And so that's one of the reasons why the Olympics is great, I think, is because it is this like, yes, you are exposing subcultures to people who have no idea, and there's going to be some issues with that, but it is just like, oh, wow, here's this awareness. Gymnastics fans go through this every 4 years, right? There's gymnastics happening all the time.
All the time.
Every
Absolutely.
year.
Yep.
But everybody swoops in every 4 years and becomes an expert all of a sudden. But it is a lot of exposure. So there's good and bad that comes with that, right? But so I thought I heard a lot of I actually heard a lot of great feedback from people who just loved like watching the breaking. They couldn't believe the athleticism. I thought it was actually shot really well. I don't know, Armand, of how you felt about that, but like the cinematography, they're like sort of the circular stage, and it's like they're circling around as they're doing moves. And I thought that was all handled pretty well. But unfortunately,
I thought the DJ as well.
The DJ was, I thought the DJs were interesting. You could tell who knew. I shouldn't say that. From my opinion, I thought it was pretty obvious people who kind of understand like the roots of breaking and what the whole point of what a break beat is, and like some of the loops that people were using, because I heard a lot of people critiquing the music that the DJs were using, because they thought that people were going to be breaking to like,
Planet Rock,
some Kendrick Lamar or something, and it's like,
okay.
It's like, no, that's not, actually,
dancing
for better or
to
for
breaks.
worse, that's what a break beat is, right? It's a portion of a song that we're finding a drum break or an instrumental break, and the DJ is creatively going to loop and scratch and juggle and make that an extended thing. Like that's the whole point of the break beat, right? Yeah. Before the point was for Doc to sample, breaks on his records. One of the whole points was we needed extended music beds, because they didn't just make instrumental purpose-built records. We needed extended music beds for breakers to dance to. That's so right. I thought that was, and I almost wish that there was a little bit more education about that in the coverage. People, I think they were giving props to the DJs and, things like that. There was some interesting choices. Like I think they played, I don't know, some Tribe song at one point, and the whole audience, you could tell they perked up because they were like, this isn't some, break from a 1970s James Brown record. It was like, Tribe, and they were like, oh, Tribe, and yeah. But I thought that there was so much positive about it. But then there's our girl, Ray Gunn.
I agree. I didn't know that there was any negative controversy, because let me also say I did not watch the men. I watched the women. And then I watched the men, and I was like, oh, wow, we're on like a different level of athleticism. Yeah,
here.
I saw one clip of, I think it was an American competitor, and he was killing it. And I was like, all right. The women had like various degrees, right? There were some who were really good, there's some who were decent, there was other people, and then there was Ray Gunn, right? But we'll get there. I just tweeted like, man, to see this at the Olympics is wild.
Yeah.
50 years of hip hop was last year. In many regards, in many aspects, hip hop culture is popular culture. So, there's DNA of hip hop culture just in various things, even though it may not show up as hip hop, as we discussed earlier on the pre-show. I was a really enjoyable experience to watch. You know what I'm saying? Like, I probably watched it for maybe hour and a half, almost 2 hours before I cut it off. And I saw Ray Gunn, and I shared this. I said, when I saw the hat, she came out and I saw the hat she was wearing, I said, one of these things is not like the other.
That's right.
But I didn't pay attention to it. I just assumed, I think my mind just kind of defaults to like best case scenario. Maybe this is how they dance in Australia. It's different styles in different environments. I knew I was seeing shenanigans, but the degree of shenanigans that I was witnessing in real time, I was not aware of until much later, because the internet loves to inform and explore.
They do, but they also love to misinform.
They love to nothing more to misinform.
Because I think two things are true here. I think one thing that's true is that Ray Gunn, if you haven't seen real name Rachel Gunn. So by the way, Ray Gunn, great nickname if you're Rachel Gunn. My God. So it is true that Ray Gunn is a white 36-year-old millennial woman from Australia who has her PhD in breaking. And has her PhD in breaking, and
Wow.
had, we'll say, incredibly unorthodox moves that were all memed on Twitter endlessly. Some by people who know breaking, many by people who have no idea what they're looking for in breaking. But she finished last, dead last. And it was just very obvious, even to lay people, that she was not at the same level as the other folks who were sent, right?
I don't think she got a point in both rounds.
It's tough. She didn't get much anything, right? So that is true. What is also true is that Australia has a very small breaking scene. That's true. Because of some of those logistical and financial challenges I talked about before. And without knowing her exact story, you can just infer that if you are able to have a PhD in breaking, you probably have some other source of money, right? Like somewhere.
Correct.
To support that sort of pursuit, right? So
to get higher education in breakdancing is wild. That's so wild.
You can get a PhD in a lot of things, man.
Jeez.
That's a level of cultural appropriation that I'm guessing you weren't prepared for on a Saturday morning. And there's all that, like there's accusations of cultural appropriation, the fact that she's white, that she has her PhD. This is all played into that, right? But like, it is also true that she truly did go through the like trials and she won. Now, I don't know if you, so when I was watching the judging, even at the Olympics, I was struck by how often I got it wrong compared to the judges. Did you have the same reaction?
No, not really. It seemed to me it seemed very obvious who was winning.
For me, what I think I misunderstood trying to just jump in as somebody who knows almost nothing about breaking, right, was like how much the judges value not repeating your moves, right? So I bring this up because if you watch Ray Gun, there's almost no chance that she's going to repeat any move because it looks like she's doing. You're like, I don't understand what she's doing. She's kind of like wiggling around what seems like a child out there, right? And so people have dug up videos of like the final and like the lead up to the Olympics of her like competing. But what we don't know is what did the judges see else that day from her competitor, right? Has her competitor been doing the same moves? Like there's a whole lot that people don't know. And so because it's the internet, we've all decided that Ray Gun is like, you don't want to be the topic of the internet, right? That's always where you want to avoid. And she became the topic of the internet, I think for some good reasons, right? But also, I don't know, to me, it feels like a classic internet pile on where here's a woman who, boy, she probably should have been more aware of the lack. Like if she's doing competitive competitions, maybe she hasn't gotten outside of Australia much, but man, isn't that why she has a PhD in breaking? She should have known that the gap in skill between her and other people was just going to be monumental. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, I don't know, man.
I don't know if you remember that round, but the round they put her up against, I believe they put her up against somebody from France. Like they put her up against a hometown. So she looked like she looked like a jobber from like WWF superstars from 1990. So like, you know how, let's just say like Roddy Piper's walking to the ring, right? Everybody's cheering. They love Roddy. And they're like, and his opponent from blah, 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 Ray Gun. They show, and he does like he just does like the pose, or he does the I'm about to lose hand wave. That's what she was doing the whole time. Like I'm only here for the first round just to say that I got here. I'm not going to be here long. I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of misinformation, there was a lot of information that I saw about some of the, shenanigans that she may have engaged in order to get her spot. And because there was so much information, sometimes, y'all, the best thing to do is to just sit and wait. Because the truth will eventually like kind of seep its way out. So I don't know if that information ever got out since I've been, sick for most of this week. I didn't really see it. But was it ever confirmed that what was it like? She was, she paid for some organization. She was able to control like the judges or the voters. It was like a bunch of stuff of how she was able to kind of finagle her way in.
There's a lot of that. There's, as far as I could tell, a lot of that has been disproven. But I think the problem is she just does not. This is part of it, right? It's like she's not a very sympathetic person, right? Here you have an art form predominantly started by people of color, inner city, right? It's this long unappreciated art form. And then here you are, kind of a breakout in a bad way, memeable star, so to speak, of the Olympics is a white person with a PhD in breakdancing from a country that doesn't have a huge breaking scene. And so you just get allegations and people just want to believe what they want to believe. And like sometimes it's complicated, sometimes it's not complicated. But like the one thing I want to point out, what this reminds me of is I'd heard this story, but I never really looked into it until recently when this whole thing happened with ray gun. Back in the '88 Olympics, there was this guy nicknamed Eddie the Eagle.
Okay.
He was an Olympic ski jumper from England, and he did terribly. Like when he got out there with the ski jumping, like it was very obvious to people that he was not jumping nearly as far as everybody else was. He came in dead last. Like it was kind of so embarrassing that he became, I guess, the 1988 version of a meme, and he was on like talk shows. But like what happened as a result of all that is like the entry requirements were made stricter. They sort of informally called it the Eddie the Eagle rule. Like it used to kind of just be like in ski jumping, it used to be that, well, if you're the person from this particular country, then you're going to kind of get your little slot in the Olympics. And they changed it for that afterwards, where it's like, look, if your country can't field somebody who can can meet certain benchmarks, then your country's just not going to be in this competition. You know what I mean? In this particular competition. So they literally changed it. And I do sort of wonder if like, it's too bad that breaking won't be in the 28 Olympics. I think that would have been incredible, actually. Like they could have done some real interesting things with, where would they put it in LA? They could have done some real cool, some really interesting things like local LA DJs. Like it could have been a whole thing, Yeah. So it's too bad because I suspect, they would go, okay, well, we learned a lesson, like aside from all the hype and what's viral and everything else, like, listen, like they might just need to put like, I don't know. But the problem is it's a subjective sport, right? It's not like with ski jumping, you can be like, oh, did you jump X amount of distance? You know what I mean? And if you don't clear that bar, you're not Olympic ready. What are you going to do in breaking? It's like, well, you know what I mean? Like you would need some other way to try to figure that out. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. But it's too bad that at least on an Olympic level that we can't see breaking evolve because I don't know. This all feels positive in a weird way to me. It's attention. People are talking about breaking. It's 2024.
And I think that's the part that a lot of people are upset about is that prior to her, her going viral, the response was so overwhelmingly positive. Yeah. And like you said, there's a lot of curiosity from people who had no idea what it was.
For sure.
And then there's this hip hop aspect from people who are like, wow, look at this evolution of this culture.
Yeah.
Just something different at the Olympics. We're just used to, fencing and wrestling and swimming and basketball and stuff, which is all great. Nobody's calling for any of those sports to not be an Olympic sport, but it's like, what else can you add? Here's this fresh take on the Olympics. The Olympics is clearly trying to change their branding. They had your man, Snoop D-O-double-G. He was the Olympic. I'm going to do a video just about...
I'm so over Snoop right now. Man, I'm so over him. He needs to go.
Man.
He's to go just chill.
And really in the video, what I'm going to say is you have a lot of young artists who are dying. I'm going to get back to ray gun. You have a lot of young artists who are getting killed, getting murdered. Imagine if Snoop would have went to jail for life for that murder at 23. We would not see this evolution of Snoop having fun, there, et cetera, right? Whereas like these other artists, because they're so wrapped up in what they think is the most important thing now, they never get a chance to like evolve into who they, eventually will be because they, give themselves over to a conflict, an issue, an ideology that, ultimately takes their lives. So for me, I'm always happy to see Snoop because his life could have been completely different. And now in many ways, he is the ambassador of hip hop right now.
He really is. He really is.
So I'm happy to see. I mean, it was cool. They play like Pump Pump and he was there. Like that was cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, but because the response was so overwhelmingly positive, she's kind of taken away a lot of the focus.
That's fair. Yeah, for sure.
And I think that, that upsets a lot of people because now it's not about breakdancing. It's about how did this woman get in?
Right.
It's about, like other stuff connected, other social issues connected to the breakdancing rather than it just being about the breakdancing. But it also depends on the conversation that you're having because that conversation is not as strong offline. I think people are still like, wow, breakdancing, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Hey, that ray gun group, like some of it is just the memes. Hey, this is really funny. And,
Right.
but there is some conversation in the middle about there's, white privilege. There is, just all types of stuff, which is unfortunate because something never, in a lot of instances, things don't ever get to be what they are. There's always something else attached to it.
Let me ask you this. So like what was really interesting, and maybe this is just like the particular combination of people who came in the Olympics. When I think about, which I think about often, white people in hip hop, right? So like in the 90s, it was so very obvious that so many white people in hip hop, they thought that they had to like imitate in every possible way.
Yep.
Dress, mannerisms, accents of Black people and other people of color to try to fit in.
Yep.
I feel like in a lot of ways that's not quite as prominent. In some cases, it's just because hip hop culture is culture in a lot of places. So like, what's the difference? Also, you can now look a certain way. You could look just like if you close your eyes and imagine a stereotypical white kid, whatever that might look like, that person could still listen to hip hop in a way that like clothing is not tied to your music and likes in the way that it was when we were kids. So like that has kind of changed. Watching breaking was like a portal back in time for me as I watched a 17-year-old girl from Eastern Europe go out there skipping on stage with a do-rag on. And I was just like, I honestly, I was, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do.
And she won. She won her round, didn't she?
She was good. She medaled. She was really good, actually.
Oh, she medaled.
She medaled.
I didn't know that. Wow.
She medaled. Okay. But I was just like, whoever thought that hip hop would take it this far, that a 17-year-old Eastern European girl felt enough confidence to go out there with a do-rag on was incredible.
She was dressed like Jay-Z. I don't know if you've seen that Jay-Z Volume 3 photo shoot where he's in Marcy in the velvet sweatsuit in the do-rag, listening to music, sitting on the fold-out chair.
Yeah.
Another thought that comes to mind is one Jeffrey Atkins asked Eminem, "What's the do-rag for? You'll never have waves and you'll never know black pain." It's so interesting that those things in different cultures, I forgot what country, I don't know if she was from I don't know if she was Danish, I don't know, but certain places where black people don't exist, they get these earmarks of like you said, like that presentation. They don't know what the purpose of do-rags is. So they just saw it as, I feel like a lot of like Eurocentric hip hop, a lot of it like goes back to like G-Unit, like early 2000s.
Dipset.
So yeah. So you see a lot of like do-rags and oversized, you see that style coming back in, like so oversized clothes and and loose Timbs and, so she may not even be thinking that, this is cultural appropriation. She just may think it goes with the fit and I'm hip hop. So let me present in a way that is hip hop, not understanding like, oh, no. This is hip hop culture is popular culture, but at its root, hip hop culture is black culture. So there are certain things that just come with it. Like the do-rag isn't hip hop. The do-rag is black.
It's black. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But if you aren't around black people,
you don't know that.
You don't know that.
Nobody's going to tell you like, oh, this is to lay your hair down because you're trying to get waves.
Speaking of dressing a certain way, it is, you probably don't keep up much, but you know who Billie Eilish is, obviously.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Billie Eilish now dresses like Eminem from 2004.
I've seen that.
And so what's incredible is like, do you think that she knows that Eminem was made fun of in 2004 for dress? I mean, to the point, like he was dressing like he was a white Tupac and people were very confused as to what was going on. But now
no, they weren't. Go ahead.
Well, we were confused as to why somebody would do that, sort of. Maybe confused is an optimistic term. But now we've got like, that's now retro, and it's just like, that's not the thing to imitate. I'm so sorry. Like, if you'd like to imitate something, I encourage you, please go watch old like Cameron like videos from that era. If you're looking for a style icon to copy, I would not recommend 03, 04 angry Eminem rapping over sort of third wave Dr. Dre beats. It's just not what I would go for.
Because here's the context that a lot of people don't know about that era. Eminem was dressing like that because that was his I Think I'm Tough era. He's hanging out with 50.
Rappers do go through. Some rappers do go through. I think their tough era. We have somebody we should talk about today who's been going through. I think, and I think I'm tough era. But yeah, Eminem was going through, and I think I'm tough era.
Yep. So he's beefing with Benzino.
Sure.
He's hanging around G Unit. They're beefing with Ja Rule. You know, like prior to that, Eminem was just like a really good white rapper, right?
Aesthetically, the way that he dressed, you could almost argue it was closer to like, I don't know, Korn and Limp Bizkit sort of on that end of this.
Yeah, just a
which
white
was
t-shirt.
also, but there was also some hip hop appropriation there too. But like, there was almost like a background noise level of cultural appropriation happening in the late 90s with white people dressing in hip hop, right? You almost expected a certain amount, but then he, as you said, he took it up a notch when he decided he wanted to be a white. I don't know, hard.
Yeah, it was the velour sweatsuits, it was the do-rags, it was the Air Maxes, it was the bandanas, like
the bandanas and the do-rags. Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, so so she's dressing that way, and she doesn't recognize, or people who think that she's a fashion icon don't recognize that like Emma's getting killed for that. Like, I don't think, to your point, the confusion was more of like, why do you think you're tough? Because back then, certain style of dress was associated with, your ability to fight, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, like your ability to be a bully or to, have gang ties or like whatever. Because essentially he was dressing like a member of G Unit.
I was going to say, I mean, she's basically, Billie Eilish is sort of dressing like Bodhi from The Wire, right? Like,
absolutely.
But that's the same look.
But see, there's certain things you're not going to do. Does she just drape her do-rag on top of her head and leave it untied with the strings down? Because that's a different level of commitment. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, she's got the bandana for the most part. She's really hearkening back to a really specific like era of Eminem, and it's just like, it's incredible. First time I saw that, I was like, I knew that, the fact that they call it the Y2K aesthetic is hilarious. Like, because I know what Ice Spice is doing. We could talk about Ice Spice if we want. We don't need to touch on the fashion, but she's kind of off on a different era of the different angle of the Y2K sort of thing. But
and you're gonna have to. Maybe we should use this point to transition into Ice Spice.
Yeah. We can talk about Ice Spice. Yeah.
Nothing about what she did from her rollout to the songs on her album, besides one that samples a song from that era. Nothing about it said Y2K. So I'm trying to figure out like what was the tie-in? What's the purpose?
Yeah. So I think one tie-in is she was literally born on New Year's Day 2000. So she just Y2K actually means something to her. But her fashion to me reminds me a lot of like that Paris Hilton early 2000s era way of like Mean Girls,
very
like
rainbow. Girls will wear the
baby fat
crop tops. Yeah, they have the cherries on there. Say baby girl on there.
Like a pink Motorola Razor, like that kind of aesthetic.
Velour shorts with the Fat Farm sneakers that look. I know velour is a heavy topic today. The velour shorts that are really short. With the remember when Fat Farm made the shoes that were like
Yeah, that was
dark side.
It's so funny how like just wearing a certain kind of sneaker, you kind of advertise. That was your way of telling the world who I am and what I am about. Like that. That's how it used to be. It's more complicated now, but because now kids feel like they can just jump in and out of aesthetics, right? It was a lifestyle choice then. You were committing. Absolutely. Now it's like it's a costume. Absolutely. You change one day and you're doing something different. You know what I mean? Absolutely. God bless them. We didn't feel comfortable. Adopting different outfits that way. Like you were, you weren't going to wear Converse and like Jinkos one day and then like, Fat Farm another day. Like that's impossible.
Yeah. Jinkos were specifically for a certain demographic.
A certain demographic. That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Ice Spice. I think she needs to work with somebody who's not Riot USA is how I would put it. She is running this sound 100% into the ground. God bless her. Between the album's called Y2K, right? Between the length of these songs, some of these songs are like 2 minutes. A lot of these songs are like between 90 seconds and like 2.5 minutes. They're super short. Because of that, there were points on this album where I was like, because I was listening to it first time when this is old man stuff, when I was mowing the yard. Thankfully, noise canceling headphones, so I could still hear. But I'm mowing the yard, noise canceling headphones on. I'm listening to this, and I was like, was that 3 different songs or one song with 2 beat switches? And I couldn't tell until I like took my phone out and looked at the track list. I was like, oh, that was 3 different songs because they're sounding the same. She's making the same song for the most part. There's 2 exceptions. In the middle of the album, she has a Central C record that has Jersey Club drums, and then she follows it up with another song with Jersey Club drums. But other than that, it's just Riot USA drill records. And it's like, I would be interested to see what Ice Spice did that was something different, perhaps. She's going to get herself, if she hasn't already happened, she's going to get herself like pigeonholed into like, this is her aesthetic. She needs something different to me, but I don't know. What do you think?
Is it time for me to say my women in hip hop hot take? I don't know yet. I'll specifically speak to Ice Spice first.
Sure.
I think it's the other way around.
Oh, tell me.
I think she needs to work with, I think here we go. This is the dynamic. This is why it works.
All right.
I'm listening and I'm like, yo, you are rapping about the exact same thing on every single song. And that's not true. Even in a way you're using the same words. You know what I'm saying? Like the exact, I don't know how many times I need to hear about stealing somebody's guy, what you're wearing, you're showing your thong, some reference to a boy calling you flatulence in some term of endearment. It was just, and then at the end, you know what this reminded me? I'm about to compare Ice Spice to Biggie.
Oh, great.
Because the last 2 songs, Give Me a Light and TTYL, she's rapping like at a higher tone. Like she's like screaming, da 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 da. But the rest of the album, she's more in her like laid back flow. Similar to Ready to Die. When you hear the first half of that album, it's old like party and BS Biggie.
Yeah.
And then he now, as the album progresses, he gets more into his iconic flow that he's known for. And I'm like, who produced those last 2 records and said you need to have more energy? Because it actually made me appreciate her tone. Hearing her rap like that made me say, oh, no. I don't ever need to hear that again. Give me the standard Ice Spice. Give me a better writer. Link up with Partisan.
The thing is, I think she really does write her own stuff.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. Like, no, you need to get with another writer, go to writing camp. If you're going to write your own stuff, go to camp, get an A&R. Again, these classic, we just talked about the simple things that work. I know, Doc.
Lotto needs an A&R too, but we'll get to Lotto.
We gonna get to Lotto because I got some hot takes on Lotto too.
You're right. You're right about Ice Spice, right? Where it's not even just the same producer. It's like the same flow. It's the same topic. Like these just kind of sound like different versions of the same song, you know? And so I don't know. What she does have going for her, right, is like she connects with the public. She can like the technical aspects of rapping. She can rap for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think her pen is incredible, but like she can rap. She's been riding this kind of like wave. So I'm just like this like New York drill kind, you know what I mean?
But like it's the other New. So remember the the New York drill where Danny Brown said all the rappers sound like Batman. So it's like this aggressive New York drill where they're like talking about killing people and all that stuff. Cash Cobain, Ice Spice. There's this other New York drill that Pop Smoke was kind of introducing a little bit. Sort of. It was more girl friendly, like more, not nearly as aggressive as some of the other stuff. She's definitely one of the faces of that way for sure.
She's this is an example where like we talk about like niches, and we talked about this earlier in the pre-show, like how like hip hop and just streaming now is encouraging these artists to niche down. Ice Spice should not be niching down, but like the music that she's creating is going to niche her down because she has the notoriety and even the celebrity to go bigger, but that is not what she's doing. And I don't know if that's a purposeful choice. I don't know if that's just like they just look at the numbers and they're like, listen, people want more of these records. Obviously, she has a real level of comfort with Riot USA. I'm assuming the two of them can lock in a studio for a week and just make records like this all the time because it's obviously coming very easy to them, which is great. And I guess if that does enough numbers to make her and her team happy, that's awesome. But she actually does have a level, honestly, just the fact that she's like Taylor Swift's friend and like will pop up and like Chiefs like luxury boxes during the NFL season. Like they could do more with her. She could do more with herself. Not even they. Let's give her agency. She could do more with her brand, with her career. But so far, she has not put out music to tell me that that's what she wants to do. So I'm just trying to understand.
And then that comes back to the point of, do albums matter to artists, to these younger artists anymore? Is she trying to make like her Illmatic, her Good Kid, Mad City, right? Right. You know, what matters is like, yo, what records go viral?
Sure.
And do I have something like music and albums now are just a cog on the wheel? So, because you're absolutely right. Just think about if you would have, like, could you have gotten Taylor Swift on a hook for a song on your album?
Call that
right?
Call that favoring.
Call that favoring, right? It's favor for a favor. Like if you did a record, you did a remix of one of her records, she took you out on tour. Hey, look, here's my black friend. And then like, you're like, hey, like here, I got an album I'm working on. Give me a bridge. I mean, go back to the 90s. Remember when Mariah Carey was on the DJ Clues album? It was just a skit. Like, just do a skit. Call it Taylor. Right. Like, I'm just talking to Taylor. Like, I mean, the song will be better, but just some sort of something that is outside of your normal wheelhouse. And I noticed for a lot of artists, it kind of takes them a while to do that. Think about how long it took J. Cole to finally accept other production and what that did for him.
Yeah, for sure. I hear that. You know,
but we're on the minority. This is the last thing I'll say. We're on the minority scale of that because we didn't like Born Center. We didn't like a lot of those early J. Cole albums, but J. Cole fans like love that stuff.
Love them.
And we're like, it didn't change until Forest Hill Drive. It really didn't change until the off season. He just now figured it out.
It's going to be incredible when there's a future nostalgia for the early days of Ice Spice. They're going to be like, man, remember when she was just working with Riot and they were just putting those records out? It was great, wasn't it? Like, there's going to be people who are nostalgic for that because for almost everything that happens, there's somebody who is nostalgic for it. Almost.
Absolutely.
Like, there are very few, there are some, obviously, there are horrific like events in life that most people are not nostalgic for. But you know what? Sometimes the very worst people are still nostalgic for something. There are really few things that people aren't, that there isn't at least somebody out there who's like, man, remember those days? You know?
Absolutely.
That's going to happen with Ice Spice.
And Eve. Yeah.
I saw some Instagram post that was like talking, you know, it was just like posting like, you know, clips of like songs from Beanie's first album. And they devoted 2 separate clips to Remember Those Days. And I was like, that song was terrible. Do we have to?
It's not a good song.
It's not a good song.
Man, when the super hardcore thug rapper had to make I blame Jay-Z. I really blame Hard Knock Life.
You think so?
Yeah,
you don't blame Puff Daddy? We could just blame Puffy for everything. I think that's fine.
No, because it was a certain tone to the production. Like that beat was not a Puff Daddy Bad Boy Hitman beat. That was a Swiss beat. You know,
the sort of Swiss really was given some questionable records to Rockefeller, Girl's Best Friend.
It's a terrible song.
Things That You Do.
We were listening to my wife found her CD booklet and we were listening to volume 3 with my son in the car. So we're playing him. I got to play him Dope Man for the first time. You know, Hova song, like, and we're just rapping lyrics in the car or whatever. And then after it's hot, that little middle run is terrible.
And
S. Dot Carter, Pop for Rock.
And a lot of those records, those are the records they added.
And first of all, that production sounds like Remember Them Days. Second of all, my wife is like, oh, I loved these records as a kid. And I'm like, oh, they were for her. Right. And they worked.
By the way, I have some real time corrections here. We have sullied the name of Swiss Beats. He did not produce Remember Them Days. Can you believe that?
No, he didn't. No, I said it was a Swiss type beat. It wasn't. I knew it wasn't Swiss.
It was Lofi. It was Lofi. That's a name you haven't heard in a long time.
What else did he produce?
That's a good question. Hold on. Lofi.
Yeah, that anything like they had to make a certain type of acceptable record because anything else they scared people from buying their music. Beanie Sigel was scary in 1999.
Listen, you should like people really. I mean, you know, Stop Chill's my record. I love Stop Chill. Stop Chill's incredible.
Stop Chill's crazy.
What's Your Life Like is, you know,
Scared
that
straight.
was a time.
Scared straight on wax. What you know about no parole? Yeah, the horn. Yeah, we've laughed at that song. We played that song live on the show and laughed at it. Yes.
It's great. It's great.
It is. It's an amazing record.
Yeah.
So with Ice Spice, something else I want to talk about.
Sure.
From Beanie Siegel to Ice Spice.
That's right.
So I want to talk about I just want to mention what she sold, and then I want to talk about Lotto.
Okay.
So I believe Ice Spice's first, and I'm just pulling them out the air. She sold 25.
Oh, jeez, that's rough. It's tough.
28. She did 28.
That's pretty bad.
So she got mocked. There's just a whole, there's a women's civil war in hip hop, right? So it's like there's Nicki's side, there's Cardi's side. So Nicki at one point was supposed to have signed Ice Spice. I guess that's not true. But Nicki was saying some disparaging things, and other fans, whatever, talking about record sales. Again, nobody points out how we count music, how we count record sales.
None of it matters. It's all fake numbers, right? Yeah. It just doesn't. It's like there's streaming, and then there are physical sales, and both can be manipulated. So like, I'm not really sure what to tell you. You know what I mean?
So I want to put a pause on that. So Ice Spice did 28.
Yeah.
Was maybe 2 weeks or so after that album, or a month or so after that, Lotto puts out her album, Sugar Honey Iced Tea, which apparently is her third album, which is wild.
That is true.
I feel like she's been out for 6 months. I'm like, dang, you got 3 albums already? So with this Lotto album, first of all, when you hear the intro, you can't tell me that Aubrey Graham did not write this song.
He's not listed in the credits.
Of course not. But I'm gonna tell you why. Because it's this song, and it's Shout Out to Me, the outro. He wrote the intro and the outro for sure. Now, hold on, let's play it. Can you play? Right. I want you to play Georgia P. Skip it, because like the intro is mad dramatic and long, which is evidence of Drake. But I want you to play both of those records, because I want to do some math on the show.
Let me jump ahead a little bit.
Georgia Peach, put me somewhere on a gorgeous beach. But I'm right here in the hood, Posted with niggas that's up to no good. Pulling up outside of Magic. Niggas know I'm from Jurassic. Keeping that shit in my jacket. I'm with the boys in the hood right now. I'm feeling like Angela Bassett. Looking like Jessica Rabbit. They know that I'm dropping the classic. Money is under the mattress. Wonder what I owe in taxes. Label sent over a new deal. Somebody hand me my glasses. Is this money out for me, my girl? Shit is massive. You single belong to BP, my girl. Yeah, they gassy. I start cross on when he be digging me out. I feel.
All right, you get the idea. There's a co-writer on there. There is a is it Jazzy, who's credited as a co-writer on there.
So shout out to Jazzy.
And Jazzy co-writes with Lotto sometimes, but Jazzy has written for Beyonce, Mary J, SZA.
She was signed to Puff. Yep.
Yeah. Lots of people. So
yeah, shout out to Jazzy. Jazzy's dope.
Yeah, maybe there's some of that. I don't know.
There's some other things.
Okay.
Actually, go ahead and play Shout Out to Me, because that one's even more egregious.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna tell you what I hear.
Rap game, I always had desire to try it myself. Things wasn't perfect at home, but I could still lie to myself. Smile in my mama's face and then I go cry to myself. Other than talking to Brooke, I used to just hide how I felt. Knew I was destined to be somebody with diamonds and wealth. Not one of these bitches that they signing and slide on the shelf. If nobody wanna hear Alyssa, I'm signing myself.
It does sound like Drake. I get it.
That's Drake's.
Maybe it's just
that's Drake's rapidy rap flow.
It is.
But
that's a beat that is. God, I can't believe now we're imitating a certain kind of Drake record.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I wouldn't be surprised if it referenced it and it was like, well, let's remake this and add. It's the flow. So it's a few things.
Sure.
Because I believe first of all, okay, let's do some math.
Okay.
So Lotto is rumored to be dating 21 Savage, right?
Okay.
21 Savage's boy is Big Bang Aubrey Graham, right?
Graham, sure.
Aubrey was connected to Lotto's sister. Her name is Brooklyn Nicole.
Okay.
Both of those songs mention Brooklyn extensively. They also mention that Brooklyn is always pursued by NBA players. When I think about Drake's relationship with NBA players,
Sure.
and I think about Drake's relationship with other female rappers, what better move for Drake to do than to be able to put on a costume of a female rapper and really say what he wants to say through somebody else? Because some of this stuff felt like, all right, this is a little personal, Aubrey Graham. This ain't just Lotto talking heavy. This is like, Drake can't say this, but I'm going to say this through somebody else.
Well, but here's the thing. I mean, so the one thing I'll say about Lotto, because I think there's a lot to like about Lotto, right?
Absolutely. I think she's one of the best.
I think she's technically underrated as a rapper. She can switch flows. She can change her vocal inflection. She doesn't do the same thing every time.
Absolutely.
It's interesting that you're pointing out like this stuff about how it sounds like it's written by Aubrey, because my notes for this project overall were like, the thing that's kind of interesting is if she's not written by male ghostwriters, she's writing as though she is. Like her whole thing is that she is basically like the male fantasy of like a ride or die girlfriend, like in every song, no matter what.
Every song. Yes.
And so
yes.
What is interesting to me is like, is she purposefully doing that? Like, is that genuinely how like she sees herself? Is that like a strategy to try to like appeal to men, right? Where it's like, you know, I'd be curious to know, like, is that her thinking this is what men want to hear? Is this the classic example of like when men write for women, they write them as though how men want to see them?
Biggie and Kim. Yep.
Sort of. But even then, like that was a different thing where like, it was always like, I don't know, like you could tell because it was like all of a sudden Kim's rapping like she's like, you know, the Don Dada, like she's like some boss of bosses, you know what I mean?
For sure.
Whereas this is like really, I don't know, it's just really interesting to see like there's this whole, and this is just me being out of touch with the kids and the youth, right? But like between artists like Sexy Red and Lotto, Ice Spice, there is like it is not what I would consider in my old head ways now, like sort of strong, like feminist, like the ladies are here and they're taking over. Like a lot of Lotto, I think, is indicative of this, where it's like almost all of her raps, like she is like the supporting character to her man, which is like, I'm still trying, and like it, because I think she can write. There are songs in here that definitely have extra writing credits for sure. So, but she would not be the first rapper to get little help here, little help there, whatever. But if she really is the driving force between her raps, that's a really interesting thing to me. Is that like, again, like, is that really how she sees herself? Is she being like trying to be strategic where she's like, listen, like I want men to listen to my records the same way that I want women to listen to them. And I'm writing so that I'm more broadly applicable. I'm not really sure, but like, I don't know. It really stuck out as I was listening to this. I was like, yes, another, like, I get it. Like you want the guy who's got the gun, or, oh yes, you're this kind of girlfriend, or this. And it's like, what are you without, like, I want to hear more Lotto rapping about, like, I don't care about, like, it's like rap about like stuff other than like how men see you. Like, I want to hear more, like, cause I think she can, obviously she's so much a better rapper than Ice Spice. No disrespect to Ice Spice. Ice Spice is a different kind of rapper, right? But like Lotto, technically speaking, can do way more. I just don't know if she's always showing it how I wish, but that's just me.
Yeah. So first of all, you know that they're engaging in a rap beef currently.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So they've been there's shots at each other all throughout the album.
Sure.
And you're right. Like Lotto wipes the floor with Ice Spice lyrically. Lotto wipes a lot of people. I won't even regulate her to women. I think I'm biased because, again, like when her name was Miss Mulatto and she was like 11 years old and making songs about being at the mall and having a crush on a boy in her class, like that was stuff my daughter was listening to. Yeah. So she put me on and showed me the rap game. And like what made me appreciate her was like, oh, her dad had her like in boot camp. Like she was writing. So all these competitions were like, all right, you got to write a song in 30 minutes. Lotto was like, all right.
Yeah.
And will write and like was an excellent writer. So, you know, I think she's really, really good. I think you hit the nail on the head. Similar to Ice Spice, just the production is a little different, so it's not Riot doing every single song.
Right.
But it doesn't take her long to establish herself, like you said. You know, ride or die chick, this, that, and the third, I'll do this for you. I'm this, I'll beat this girl up, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, man, it's again for a 17 track album that's an hour long, like that's a lot. That's a lot to ask. So much so that I feel like anything that might be good on here, I mean, like Big Mama is cool, Blick Something is cool. I feel like Brokey's probably going to be the next record that takes off.
I mean, H&M, they're clearly they're trying, it's a catchy record. It's not for me, but like I see what they're trying to do.
Ironically, I mean, I like her on different tempos. So I like the Squeeze record is cool. The Sierra record is cool because that's an even faster tempo than what people are doing now. I actually, believe it or not, my favorite song on the album is the Tizo record. And sequencing, like there's no way that should be the second to the last song on the album.
Sequencing is a lost art, man. What can I say?
Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Everybody has forgotten someone's going to rediscover it someday and it's going to be great, but like it's totally a lost art.
Yeah. So I'm with you, man, because then Lotto sells. Let's see what Lotto sells. So everybody was making fun of Ice Spice. She does 27,000. Ice Spice did 28. She does 27.
Yeah.
And what this says to me about a lot of these female artists, it is an aesthetic, and they are fighting for the same audience, right?
That's the problem,
like,
niching down, right?
Yes. When you're niching down, which is what everybody is doing, be it intentional or not, you're going to hit a similar ceiling. So you can't sit there and say, she only sold 27, or she only sold it's the same number, because you're essentially same aesthetic. Girls want to look like me, guys want to sleep with me, guys want to be with me, same aesthetic, just a very similar aesthetic physically. Content is the same, the production is similar enough, and it's just like, it's going to attract the same audience. Like you can't do that and get past the ceiling unless you do something else. And it seems like a lot of these girls are not willing to do something else. Whereas you look at somebody like Megan's seeing success right now. Of course, Megan has longer tenure, right? So more people know who she is. But she's having success with her song with the Japanese artist, right?
That song is. I mean, but I think some of that, how much of that is just honestly luck of the draw? Like that's what TikTok found catchy. You know what I mean? Not sure.
I mean, but again, we think about what is Megan and Roc Nation's relationship with TikTok. I assume it's probably good. So they're like, push this record. I saw some things comparing that to like Nicki Minaj and her relationship with Japanese culture, how Nicki was more like cultural appropriation, whereas Megan is like really immersed herself and, goes after certain artists that already have credibility, this and a third. So
I think people like Megan. And so that's honestly what it boils down to.
And that comes down to a lot of it as well. So, I mean, ultimately, man, hip hop is just in a place right now where like metrics that we use to define success, like record sales, like it's just not, 28 and 27, like those numbers are not very different. Somebody's going to have to step out the box and do something different. Lotto has the skill set, to your point.
She does.
She has the skill set to do something different. And it doesn't even have to be, she ain't even got to be on like Rhapsody, super deep. Like there's so many aspects to humanity, so many aspects to femininity that she could speak to, where that could take her into a different place where like a simple conversation of, man, a lot of these girls, they're half naked, they're this, but I like Lotto. Like that's the crown that Rhapsody gets, but Rhapsody is clearly trying to be underground rappity rap. Right. And it's trying to break through commercial, but she's almost like too lyrical. Whereas Lotto can like still maintain the aesthetic in many ways, but then just go get into a different bag and do something a little different to get outside of that 27, 28 ceiling. I
mean, some of that is, in this look, I think the beats on this album are fine.
They're good enough.
They're good enough. But like, you think about the iconic female rappers from our era, you couldn't ask for better production, basically, right? Missy and Tim, Kim had the Hitmen to start with. Foxy had Track Masters. Like, I mean, seriously, you could not. we're talking icons of icons, who have, and that really kind of matters, to a certain degree. At some point, the music does matter. But yeah, because honestly, like, it was so funny when I was listening to the record with Megan Thee Stallion, my biggest thought was just, oh, so I think Lotto's a better rapper than Megan, which I guess I hadn't like really put that together, but I think she's a better rapper. Like Megan is so good on a guest appearance for sure. Mm-hmm. She comes in, she is like, I'm not going to say they're the same, because the person I'm going to compare this to in a second, this is such a Doc comparison. Listen, in the 90s, I always want to hear a guest appearance from Inspector Deck. You know what I'm saying? But a whole album
compare Lotto to Inspector Deck, or you just compare Megan to Inspector Deck.
But like a whole album of Inspector Deck, at some point you're like, is he going to switch it up? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so with Megan raps mostly the same flow and tone. Sometimes she switches it up, but like I'm biased towards rappers who can be flexible, who can do lots of different things. Mm-hmm. That's why when I talk about Larry June, I'm just going to be like, listen, Larry June raps the same on every single record, so I don't know what to tell you. But like Lotto,
I got a Larry June hot take. Go ahead.
Lotto can do a whole lot of things, right? So like, I want to see more. I want to see her continue to succeed. I want to see her continue to do well. I want to see all these rappers continue, because when rappers succeed, that means rap succeeds theoretically.
That's right.
So I just want to see more, man.
I'm looking at Lotto's production credits on this album. So a lot of Go Grizzly.
Yeah.
And ironically, like, I like Put It on the Floor. I like Sundays. This Sunday Service beat is crazy. I like that beat a lot. I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to ask this question, because it might be a hot take question, but like, what's the last time you heard a beat that just made you go like,
yeah, I know.
Right? You were guaranteed that 10 years ago, even as recent as 10 years ago or 15 years ago, at least once every album.
Yeah.
And now honestly, everything is just like good enough.
It's good enough. We've on the one hand, we've raised the floor, right? Between sample packs, the accessibility of both software and tools to create and mix and master. Like, it has never been easy to make a adequate to okay to good song.
Yep.
I don't know if that makes it harder to create great music, but like, at least on the hip hop side right now, it's a struggle, man. It's a real struggle, right? Because it's just so easy to create stuff that's good enough. It's tough, man. There have been few and far between.
You look at people's attention spans. You look at how streaming services are paying out. Again, I keep saying it. There's just very little incentive to make great music. It's very little. There's incredible incentive to make good enough music.
Lots of good enough.
The conversation, lots of good enough. Keep the conversation going. Find something that goes viral, something you can convert into a moment that gets you some attention, that creates an opportunity for you to make some money in some other field. But like, there's just no incentive to make a great album unless you just really, 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 really care about the music. So speaking of attempting, we could say, I lost my transition.
It's okay. I was like, are you going to transition to Larry June or JPEG Mafia? It was one of the two.
I was going to transition into JPEG, because JPEG is someone who goes outside of the box.
He does.
I think that's one of the reasons why he caught our attention. Shout out to my son for putting us on to Scaring the Hoes, which was very high, if not our album of the year.
Yeah, it was
last year.
It was really high. Yeah.
Yeah. So this year he's been working with Kanye, who he's on record saying is his favorite, is long been his favorite rapper.
Sure.
And has a lot of production credits on Vultures and Vultures 2, but he has done his own thing, put out his own album.
Yeah.
What is the name?
I Lay Down My Life for You is the title.
I Lay Down My Life for You.
So it goes without saying, JPEGMAFIA, super creative. For me, there's two sort of fundamental problems with this project. One is that I think he's an okay rapper. He's not terrible. He's not great. So there's sort of a ceiling on the rapping side going on here. And the second problem is that with Peggy, there's a fine line between beats that make you go, whoa, and beats that you're just like, is this just loud? Is that what he's doing? Is he just like throwing things that are dissonant together? And to me, this album leans really heavily on the I think this is just loud. Plus, there's a huge amount of rock influence. And listen, that's just not a lot of headbanging, and that's just not like my vibe. So like, this album just doesn't really, there's like a ton of creativity, but to me, it's all like, this is for somebody else. You know what I mean? And when you talk about beats that make you go, whoa, there was at least 2 or 3 on Scaring the Hose last year that made me go, oh,
Yeah,
like stood up straight. You're like,
absolutely.
Stand up. You want to like salute a little bit. You're like, wow, all right. We're cooking now. Yeah, no, lay down my life for you. Maybe I think my expectations, I was like, oh, Armond told me JPEGMAFIA's got a project. I'm going to hear some crazy beats. And I heard some crazy beats, but maybe not like amazing beats, you know? So.
Yeah, I agree. I was one like, and I've heard other music of his before. Yeah. Scaring the Hose that I really liked. But I've also, again, like, it reminds me, he has the cherry bomb problem where Tyler said he intentionally mixed the album loud. And in hindsight, it was a mistake. Yeah. So he was like, it's a good album that should have been a great album because it had I mixed it better. You know, it's one of those things where like, I feel like JPEG record or creates alone. I feel like he learned a lot working on Vultures. I would have loved to have heard what he did and what Kanye did, like what Kanye took, and because you don't really hear his influence on the songs that he produces. Like,
no, because yeah.
And I really wish, and we're gonna get there.
Yeah,
I may be jumping the gun.
It's okay.
I really wish that JPEG would have been around Mike Dean, Rick Rubin.
Listen, we're gonna put some respect on Mike Dean's name today. Okay, I got a whole thing. Listen, we need to. Yeah, the man was clearly holding a lot together. We'll get there.
We'll get there. I'll also say, okay. So let me ask you this: what are the songs on this album that you liked?
Honestly, I liked it more when he kind of like laid off a little bit. So like at the end, Don't Put Anything on the Bible, and I Recovered From This. Like when he kind of like doesn't just try to be like, let me put 5 things in a blender, play it really loud, and have a rock switch at the end. Like, all right, I get it. Like, yeah. Like I said, there's just a fine line between being like avant-garde and being just like, I'm throwing stuff at the wall. And, you know, I think he has a very particular way of hearing music. He has a very particular aesthetic. I'm still excited to see like, what does he do as he evolves as a musician? Like, where does he go? Like,
he's still not peak form yet.
What I would be concerned about in this era is that he's going to niche down. I don't want to hear him niche down. I want to hear him just try stuff, right? Take advantage of the fact that it's never been easier to release stuff, that it's never been easier to have a fan base who will support you no matter what your little adventures into different side projects are. Just try stuff. Spread your wings. Don't feel locked in. I'm afraid instead he's going to feel like he's got to make, JPEGMAFIA beats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's got an ear, and he's got a creative ability to chop samples and to sequence and to program. That is different. He's just not doing the same thing as everybody else. This is not, 14 songs with trap drums on them. Give the man credit. He's trying it. I want to keep it. This wasn't my favorite result, but like, keep trying. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would also like to, like, again, like some of these beats with better rappers, I think we would have got a better result.
It's amazing how much I didn't really love Danny Brown all the time on Scaring the Hose, but they almost had, this is blasphemy to compare them, but like, you'll understand. I love the J-Lib album. That album does not have strong rapping, but it has 2 very different styles to ping pong off of each other, to balance each other out. And I wouldn't say I love Danny Brown, but like Danny Brown was a balance with JPEG. Like there was some, you had a little bit of something, to sort of switch it up. And I think he needs that a little bit,
a rapper who comes to mind that I would kind of want to hear over some JPEGMAFIA beats that I feel I could find a pocket. This is going to come completely out of left field.
I'm so excited. Where are we going?
I would love to hear 2 Chainz on some JPEG.
Listen, 2 Chainz can rap on anything if he wants to.
And that's what JPEG needs. Like, find a guy who can really get into those pockets, and not just because when I hear JPEG, like the beats are so overpowering, he just becomes an instrument. I didn't hear, I forgot what the song was that we love, but I didn't realize what the content was in the song until about the 4th or 5th listen. I was like, oh, like you're talking crazy. I can't play this for everybody.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas
Listen, that album was called Scaring the Hoes for a reason. Okay.
For a reason. Oh my God.
Should have been called Scaring the Kids, Scaring the Grandparents.
Absolutely. But I like the 3 records that come to mind. It's actually a run. My favorite song on the album is JPEG Ultra with Denzel Curry. That record is crazy. I like that record a lot.
What's the one with the tears flip?
Oh, that's Ex-Military.
Yeah, no. You sent that to me and I was just like, listen, I had higher hopes. I actually, in a weird way, I was like, oh, he didn't actually go as weird with this as I thought he was going to go. He was sort of restrained.
He was restrained. Yeah. I like Either On or Off the Drugs. That's a cool flip. And then I like Loop It or Leave It. Like that little run, I like a lot.
I actually think, I might say the back sort of section of the album might be better than the first section a little bit.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Yeah. So, JPEG is somebody, like you said, JPEG, oh my God, he can release every 6 months. He can put out a project every 6 months. And that's me being conservative about it.
No, because we feel like first of all, he's still at that point in his career where he's very creatively inspired. Like he's going to I feel like he's just probably churning out crazy beats all the time, but like he could just try different aesthetics. Yeah. Keep the projects a little shorter maybe, but you know.
Yes. A little shorter. Yep. A little shorter. And just go for it. Cause you will, and bring other people in there with you. And this time in another year or 2, 3 years, even different artists, guaranteed. I mean, I could even see him work with somebody like Tyler. I feel like would be able to.
JPEG and Tyler. That
JPEG and Tyler would be crazy.
It's too easy. It's a layup almost.
Yeah, JPEG and Tyler would be crazy.
We need more Tyler. When's Tyler releasing? What's he doing? Come on now.
I mean, he's popping out. He's doing something with Supreme finally. He just did an interview that went viral where he was talking about Ian and some other things, and people get mad at him for having an opinion because he's now become like he's one of us now. But he's a little more aggressive. He's probably like old us. We were just like cranky about everything. Yeah, we've kind of calmed down.
Sure.
But people don't like. It's funny. People on the internet complain all the time, but don't like when other people complain on the internet. It's very interesting.
They think the internet is a megaphone and not a two-way communication system. You know what I'm saying? They want to complain.
And in many ways, the internet is not a two-way communication.
No, it's
it kind of is, but it's not. It's not.
You're left with. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And you're left with, and you're really speaking through your internal monologue and your internal thoughts, but you're communicating them publicly to people who don't know you and can't hear you.
It's a good point. It's a good point for everybody to remember that just because you're not saying it out loud doesn't mean that you can say what's on your mind. You know what I'm saying? Don't forget that.
That's what Twitter
is.
It is an
outside voice if you're typing. I just want to point that out to everybody.
Twitter used to say that. What's on your mind? I shouldn't share that.
What's on your mind? What are you up to? What's going on today? You know who's an artist I don't want to hear more from?
Is eating lunch. I miss those days.
Yeah. An artist I don't want to hear more from. Sorry. His name's Logic.
Oh, God.
Listen, I listened to this Logic album, okay? I don't know why. I did it for the show. I did it for the people, Armond, I have a song to play for you because there's a sample that I just need you to hear what happens with the sample, okay? So
I just want to point out, I've been on the Logic hate train for a lot, before it was cool. When y'all liked him for making them suicide records and y'all was calling him like the next J. Cole, he was always terrible. He was always bad. All right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Play me this record so I can be mad. Go ahead.
Song's called Mission Control. So artists have been sampling the 2000s for a while now. Now we're getting into the late 2000s with our sampling here. Okay. Just wait. First of all, Lemonade is a flawless beat, right? Love Lemonade. He hippity hopped it.
Doc, you've officially pissed me off. I've never I've always been like, ha ha, he, you've never pissed that upsets me. That is a beat battle beat from 2004.
Yeah.
And he's doing this when the beat switches.
The hands are in the air.
Yeah. That is terrible.
Oh, boy.
Oh my God. I
love Lemonade's great, right? That's a great beat. Bangladesh was in his bag in that era. If you've never, there's a video floating around, somebody did like showing, I don't know if people know, Lemonade is a sample chop and it's an insane sample chop.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Bangladesh was in his bag on that. That is not just him doing like, dun, dun, dun. That's like a crazy sample.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But
Fun
then
fact,
to be like,
I hate that bass line on
oh, no, that song is perfect. Oh my God.
I hate the bass line.
All right, now I need to see. Can I pull it? Let's see. Lemonade.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna let's see if you can.
God.
Let's see. Hold up. We got what's played.
Oh my God.
You all right?
No. No, I'm not okay.
So I'm gonna play this. Let's see if we can find. This is the original sample. Hold up.
Okay.
Write another song for the money. Something making.
Yeah. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard it. Yep.
Yeah. That's what he took those little. He took those pianos, sped them up. Yeah. It's crazy.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Sampling, man.
Oh, it's the best. It's the best. Until you sample Gucci's Lemonade and turn it into you could just see like the art, like he wanted to go into the b-boy pose when he first heard that beat, where he was like, yeah, like he should have been out there. Logic should have been at breaking at the Olympics, man. He could have done a little performance.
Didn't he retire?
He is from the Jay-Z school of I'm going to retire all the time. I think. I don't know. He
got a big bag from Twitch, right?
I forgot about that.
And he was going to be a streamer.
He was, yeah. He retired in 2020, and then he retired again, and then he put out a final release with Def Jam, and then he put out another, and then he's retired multiple times, I think. Yeah.
I'm pissed.
He's only 34.
I actually thought he was younger than that. But he's been out for a long time.
You could have told me he's 26. You also could have told me he's 40, and I don't know if I could have told you the difference. Yeah.
That sound like some Save the Last Dance.
Oh, no.
Every dance movie from the early 2000s. Yo, that was really bad. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about something else. Something good. What's something good that you've heard lately, Doc? Let's cleanse the palate before we get into these last couple albums. Jesus.
I'm pretty happy with some beats I've made lately. No.
Okay. Hey, listen, man. I got ready to send the rest of those records off to be mixed, and I got sick.
I got Can I ask you a question? I was going to say, can I ask you about Larry? I'm curious about, I got some Larry June questions. You're my Larry June correspondent on this show. You know what I'm saying?
All right. This isn't going to cleanse the palate, but okay.
No, I'm just curious. So when I listen to the Larry June project, as an outsider, parts of it, I feel like he's going for an offshoot of the Rick Ross, Lush instrumental era, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then other parts of the album, I feel like we're taking a total swerve into Bay Area, very West Coast production, very traditional. Is that typical for Larry June? Because I felt like when I was listening, I gave the project a listen. I was like, oh, we're just swerving. Half the time I'm waiting to hear the Maybach music drop. The other half of the time I'm like, is E40 going to pop up? Is that just kind of the two worlds that Larry June is in typically? Is that what's going on?
Yeah. So there's a few. Okay. So yeah, there's the Car. He works with Cardo a lot. Cardo got wings.
Yeah.
They've got some projects together. He works with, I don't really know a whole lot of the other producers. Yeah. Sometimes he gets into that Rick Ross, Lush production.
Yeah.
Sometimes he has a persona called Trap Larry where he'll rap over some trap beats. Sometimes he'll work with London Drugs and kind of rap over some 80s R&B.
Yep.
And the flow is going to be the same. The content's going to be the same. When you get Larry June, you're getting Larry June. You know exactly what you're getting. He's not going to stray. He's not going to venture outside much. He's going to be exactly who he is all the time. If anything, The Great Escape in hindsight was a venture off because Alk was giving him just some different production. Yeah. But truth be told, it kind of didn't work because Larry's better on faster beats. He's better on those Bay Area beats than anything else.
Yeah, I get that. Like, because he has a very sort of typical flow, and his voice, he's not like an excitable rapper, right? So if you're not going to up your inflection, I mean, you tell me if you're wrong. I'm wrong. You're the rapper here, right? Lord knows I've never tried to rap, thank God. Like, if you're going to have a lower voice, like kind of a not excitable inflection in any ways, you need that faster record to bring energy or something to the, if you're going to be sort of a little lower, a little more monotonous, not in a bad way, it's just your vocal tone. Slow beats, I don't know, man. You get into like Mass Tequila territory, like where
No said date. Yeah, I agree. Because really this album, Doing It For Me, didn't do it for me. Yeah, there's like, because I think with the Larry songs that I like, the Larry songs that I like are all like great upper echelon. Like, he just finds a pocket of flow. Like, he's just on full display. It's like The Undertaker. The Undertaker is always The Undertaker.
Okay.
The Undertaker, everything is wrestling. Shout out to my man Meech, who just wants me to turn that into a show. I will. But it just comes to me. I can't sit down and like figure it out. But when The Undertaker's in the ring with Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Brock Lesnar, great matches.
Yeah.
Able to tell a story. He's still The Undertaker, full character, full dead man, but like, he can work versus like Great Khali, Giant Gonzalez, Mabel. You know what I'm saying? Like, when he's in the ring with like Nathan Jones, when he's in the ring with Trash, like, the aesthetic of The Undertaker has to carry everything else that lacks. It's like, oh, it's The Undertaker. We want to see The Undertaker, even though he's wrestling somebody who can't wrestle, even though he's wrestling somebody who the character work isn't there, the storyline isn't there, but it's still The Undertaker, so we're rocking. Larry has done an excellent job of just building his brand and being who he is, that people are just going to rock with him just because. And again, niching down. So you got your people who just rock with you just because. You can't casually listen to Larry June because it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same thing every time, and it's not going to be terribly interesting. And you might have to dig a little bit to find the great music, because the great music may not be the single. It may be track 12. So yeah, this album doesn't really do it for me. It gets really boring because the production is very like monotonous in the tempos, and Larry's rapping about the same thing, and just like everything else we've talked about today, like, it's just a lot of the same. It's not whack. It's just good enough, and it's not terribly interesting.
Okay.
So
We hope you enjoyed Side A of this week's episode. Please check out Side B at clockradiospeakers.com.